Have you ever felt it? The sudden, almost invisible distance, right when everything seems perfect? When laughter flows easily, conversations feel effortless, and smiles linger longer than usual, yet somehow he pulls away. It's confusing, painful, and it makes you question everything. You start to wonder if you did something wrong, if something you cannot see has shattered the fragile harmony you thought was unbreakable. And in that space between closeness and absence, fear begins to creep in, whispering doubts you never invited but cannot seem to silence. You feel lost in a paradox where love and rejection coexist, where joy and anxiety entwine, and it seems impossible to understand why everything feels so right yet so precarious at the same time. The truth is, this is a very human experience. It is not a reflection of your worth, your value, or your capacity to give love. The mind and heart operate on deep, often hidden rules that science and psychology have been uncovering for decades. When we are met with stability, comfort, or closeness, it can trigger something surprising: fear. Fear of vulnerability, fear of losing independence, fear of having to confront emotions so intense that they feel unmanageable. The paradox of perfection is that it can be intimidating. We are drawn to love, yet we are wired to protect ourselves when it becomes real, when it demands more of us than we think we can give. And the closer we come to someone, the more we see ourselves reflected in their eyes, the more fragile the feeling of perfection can appear. This is why understanding why he pulls away when everything seems great is not just about him. It's about discovering the hidden patterns that shape how we connect, how we react, and how we grow. It's about learning the truth that distance is not rejection, but a signal, a message from the subconscious that needs attention, reflection, and empathy. It's about gaining insight into human behavior so that you no longer feel powerless or confused when closeness retreats. You are not left at the mercy of uncertainty. You can learn to read it, to respond with clarity, and to rise above the anxiety that threatens to pull you under. Imagine what it would feel like to no longer question yourself every time he steps back. Imagine understanding that his distance is not a judgment of your worth, but a reflection of deeper forces at play. Picture being able to maintain your own peace, your confidence, and your emotional balance even when the tides of closeness ebb and flow unpredictably. That is the power we are going to uncover together, and it is why staying present, paying attention, and leaning into this understanding matters so much. By the end of this journey, you will have not just knowledge, but a sense of mastery over your own heart and a deeper, calmer understanding of the dynamics that shape intimacy. You will be able to move forward without fear, with clarity, and with the courage to embrace love fully, no matter how unpredictable it may feel. This is not just about understanding him. It's about reclaiming your power, your confidence, and your ability to feel secure in love, even when it seems uncertain. And that journey begins the moment you allow yourself to see beyond the surface, to confront the subtle truths hiding behind every pull and retreat, and to recognize the incredible strength you have to navigate it with grace. Have you noticed how fear can quietly shape the way someone loves, often without them even realizing it? Fear is a shadow that lives in all of us, whispering doubts and creating invisible walls even when our hearts are wide open. It can make a person pull back, not because they want to hurt you, but because their own mind is struggling to process the intensity of connection. The human brain is wired to protect itself from emotional overwhelm, to retreat when vulnerability rises to levels that feel dangerous. And love, when it is real, is one of the most potent forms of vulnerability we encounter. It exposes us, demands authenticity, and challenges the parts of ourselves we try to hide. Fear responds instinctively, causing withdrawal, hesitation, and moments of silence that can feel like rejection but are often self-preservation. This is why understanding his distance requires seeing beyond the surface, beyond the words and actions that seem confusing, and into the deeper currents that guide behavior. Anxiety, insecurity, and the fear of losing control can quietly dictate responses even in relationships that feel stable and perfect. When someone steps back, it is not always about you or what you are doing. It can be about what they are carrying inside, the unspoken pressures, doubts, and past experiences that color their perception of intimacy. The closer the bond, the more intense these pressures can become, and the more urgent the subconscious call to step away. Recognizing this doesn't excuse avoidance. but it transforms it from a personal attack into a window into human psychology. It allows you to respond with clarity instead of panic, with awareness instead of confusion, and with strength instead of fear. Imagine the freedom that comes from realizing that his pullback is a reflection of his inner world, not a measure of your value. Imagine stepping into your own power, confident that love does not require sacrificing your peace or chasing validation. When you see fear for what it is, a signal, not a verdict, you reclaim control over your own emotional state. You stop asking, over and over, whether you did something wrong, whether you are enough, whether this closeness will last. Instead, you begin to understand that love, when it is strong and real, can withstand moments of distance. It does not crumble under the weight of anxiety or uncertainty. It grows stronger when met with patience, understanding, and emotional resilience. This is your invitation to shift perspective, to honor both your feelings and his without losing yourself in confusion. Fear is powerful, but it is not stronger than insight. By recognizing its role, by seeing it clearly, you arm yourself with the tools to navigate the complexity of human connection without losing your confidence or your heart. You learn that love is not a fragile thing that disappears the moment someone steps back. It is a force that can be nurtured, protected, and understood. Every moment of tension becomes an opportunity to strengthen your emotional awareness, to deepen your compassion, and to grow into someone capable of experiencing intimacy with courage and clarity. When you stop taking his distance personally and start seeing it as a natural part of the human experience, you step into a new level of emotional freedom. You no longer feel trapped in uncertainty. Instead, you become steady, anchored in your own strength, and ready to face love without fear. That understanding transforms hesitation into confidence, anxiety into calm, and confusion into clarity. You begin to see not just the challenges, but the profound potential for growth, connection, and resilience that exists in every relationship, even when the currents of fear pull someone away. What if the very thing that feels like perfection is actually the thing that triggers retreat? When everything seems flawless, when laughter is effortless and moments feel seamless, the mind sometimes reacts in ways that seem counterintuitive. It resists comfort because comfort can feel static, limiting, or even suffocating to a subconscious mind that craves both security and challenge. The paradox of everything's great is that it can be intimidating, even for someone who deeply cares. The brain and heart are not always aligned. What seems safe on the surface can stir unseen tension beneath. When the fear of losing independence, the fear of vulnerability, or the fear of confronting deep emotions arises, withdrawal becomes a natural, almost automatic response. This does not make it right or easy to bear, but it does make it understandable. Understanding this requires shifting perspective. Distance does not equal rejection. It does not define your worth or diminish the love you give. Instead, it is a reflection of the internal dynamics that shape human connection, complex forces that operate quietly, often without conscious awareness. Recognizing this truth allows you to stop spinning in circles of doubt and guilt. It empowers you to view moments of retreat not as failure, but as signals, messages that reveal something essential about how intimacy and personal space interact. You begin to see that closeness, while beautiful, can be overwhelming, and that a temporary step back does not erase the bond that exists. The very moments that feel like tension become opportunities for insight, clarity, and deeper connection when approached with patience and awareness. Imagine the freedom of no longer interpreting every withdrawal as a personal flaw or rejection. Imagine feeling grounded in your own value, capable of experiencing love without needing constant reassurance or fearing sudden absence. When you internalize the idea that perfection can trigger distance, you release the self-blame and begin to respond rather than react. You see the rhythm of intimacy, the ebb and flow, as a natural part of human connection. This understanding transforms anxiety into calm, doubt into clarity, and fear into empowerment. The challenge shifts from trying to control his actions to mastering your own emotional state, cultivating resilience, and maintaining the balance between closeness and independence. This perspective opens the door to a deeper, more authentic form of love, one that is steady, secure, and rooted in understanding rather than neediness. You learn to embrace the full spectrum of human behavior, including the moments of withdrawal, without losing yourself in them. Each pause, each space, each retreat becomes an opportunity to strengthen your emotional foundation, to deepen your self-awareness, and to approach connection with both courage and compassion. You recognize that love is not a fragile thing dependent on constant reassurance. It is a dynamic force that can endure moments of tension and emerge stronger, more resilient, and more profound. By seeing the hidden patterns beneath the surface of what seems perfect, you reclaim power over your emotional experience. You no longer wait in fear or confusion. You move forward with clarity and self-assurance. You embrace the paradox of intimacy, that closeness can coexist with the need for space, that love can thrive even in the presence of fear, and that true connection grows when both hearts are allowed room to breathe. In understanding this, you step into a higher level of emotional mastery, capable of navigating love with strength, insight, and unwavering confidence. Every person carries a need for autonomy, even in the deepest relationships. It is not a sign of weakness or lack of love. It is a fundamental part of being human. Independence is not the opposite of intimacy. It is its foundation. When someone steps back, it is often a subconscious attempt to reclaim that sense of self, to remind themselves that they are whole even while connected to another. This need does not diminish the bond you share. In fact, honoring it can strengthen it. Space allows reflection, clarity, and emotional processing. It is a natural rhythm, a pulse within connection that ensures both hearts remain intact and resilient. Understanding this can transform fear into patience and tension into empathy. When you begin to see distance as a necessary part of emotional balance, you stop taking it personally. You recognize that his withdrawal is not a rejection, but a signal that he needs to recalibrate, to breathe, and to return to connection with renewed presence. This insight releases you from the trap of overanalyzing every word, every text, every gesture. Instead, you can maintain your own equilibrium, rooted in self-respect and self-awareness. You can hold the space for both your needs and his, understanding that love thrives not in constant closeness, but in the delicate dance between connection and independence. Each pause becomes an opportunity to grow stronger, to deepen your own understanding of yourself, and to approach the relationship from a place of calm rather than anxiety. Think of the strength that comes from mastering this balance. Imagine being able to love fully without fear of his distance, to remain grounded in your own identity while still being present for him. This is the power of recognizing autonomy as a vital force in love. It allows you to respond rather than react, to engage with intention rather than fear. When you embrace this principle, the pull of withdrawal loses its grip on your emotional state. You no longer feel adrift in confusion or guilt. Instead, you feel anchored, capable, and empowered. The moments of space that once caused anxiety now become opportunities to strengthen your own emotional resilience and to cultivate patience, compassion, and understanding. This perspective shifts the dynamic entirely. Love is no longer a fragile dance that collapses at the first sign of distance. It becomes a force that can stretch and expand without breaking. By honoring both your need for closeness and his need for space, you create a relationship that is sustainable, resilient, and deeply fulfilling. You cultivate the wisdom to navigate moments of retreat with grace, understanding, and clarity. Each time he steps back, you gain the chance to practice emotional mastery, to reinforce your own strength, and to approach connection with intentionality and courage. Recognizing autonomy as essential does more than protect your emotional state. It transforms your entire approach to intimacy. You begin to see distance not as a threat, but as a rhythm, a pulse that ensures the relationship remains vibrant, healthy, and strong. You learn to meet it with patience rather than panic, with awareness rather than doubt, and with compassion rather than fear. In doing so, you step into a higher level of emotional intelligence, one where love is not fragile, where connection is not conditional, and where your capacity to love fully is matched by your ability to maintain your own strength, peace, and clarity. Insecurity is a quiet force that shapes so many of the choices people make, often without them even realizing it. It hides behind confidence, humor, and even affection, yet it has the power to create distance, hesitation, and withdrawal. When someone pulls back, it is rarely a simple reaction to external circumstances. More often, it is a mirror of their internal struggle. Fear of inadequacy, fear of being exposed, fear of not measuring up to expectations can all trigger a retreat, even when love is present and genuine. Understanding this transforms the experience from confusion into insight. You begin to see that the distance is not a reflection of your value, but a reflection of the battles he is silently fighting inside himself. Acknowledging the presence of insecurity allows you to approach connection with empathy rather than blame. It gives you the clarity to separate his fears from your worth. His withdrawal does not diminish your beauty, your strength, or your capacity to be loved. Instead, it reveals the human vulnerability that exists in all of us, the hidden cracks that shape our behavior. When you internalize this truth, you gain the freedom to respond with awareness, patience, and composure. You stop questioning whether you are enough, and you begin to recognize that true love is resilient. It can withstand the shadows of fear, it can hold space for human imperfection, and it can grow stronger through understanding and compassion. Imagine the power that comes from seeing insecurity clearly. You no longer take distance personally, you no longer feel compelled to chase, to explain, or to prove your worth with every word or action. Instead, you cultivate a sense of emotional independence, a grounded awareness that allows you to maintain your own peace even when he steps back. This perspective transforms every moment of tension into an opportunity for growth. Each pause, each retreat, becomes a chance to strengthen your inner confidence, to refine your emotional intelligence, and to approach connection with clarity rather than desperation. You begin to operate from a place of strength, where love is a choice, not a response to fear. This understanding empowers you to shift the energy in the relationship. You recognize that withdrawal is not rejection, but a call to practice patience, to respect boundaries, and to embrace the rhythm of human intimacy. You see that love is not a fragile construct dependent on constant reassurance, but a dynamic force that grows through understanding and intentional presence. By honoring the invisible struggles within him without losing sight of your own emotional needs, you create a space where connection can flourish, free from anxiety, guilt, or the compulsion to control. When you approach distance with insight rather than panic, you step into mastery over your own emotional world. Insecurity no longer dictates your responses, fear no longer undermines your confidence, and love no longer feels precarious. You become steady, resilient, and capable of experiencing deep intimacy without losing yourself in the process. By recognizing the role of hidden fears, you transform every moment of withdrawal into an opportunity to deepen your self-awareness, strengthen your inner foundation, and embrace love with courage, clarity, and unwavering self-respect. There is a rhythm in human connection, a push and pull that most people experience but few truly understand. It is not random, nor is it a reflection of your value or commitment. This dynamic emerges from the interplay of desire, fear, and the need for both intimacy and space. When someone comes close, their subconscious may respond with a simultaneous urge to retreat, creating tension that can feel confusing, painful, or even cruel. This push-pull pattern is not a flaw in love. It is a natural mechanism of the human mind, designed to protect, to regulate, and to maintain equilibrium in relationships. Recognizing it allows you to see the hidden patterns behind behaviors that once felt chaotic, and to respond with insight rather than reaction. When you understand the push-pull dynamic, you stop internalizing every moment of distance as rejection or inadequacy. You begin to see it as part of the natural rhythm of intimacy, a pulse that moves back and forth, teaching you to hold space without losing your balance. Desire and withdrawal are not opposites. They are partners in the dance of connection, a necessary tension that, when acknowledged, can deepen trust, respect, and emotional resilience. The moments that feel destabilizing become opportunities to practice steadiness, to cultivate patience, and to engage with love consciously rather than out of fear. You learn that maintaining your equilibrium is more powerful than attempting to control someone else's behavior, and that responding with awareness creates far stronger bonds than reacting out of anxiety ever could. Imagine the calm that comes from recognizing these patterns. You no longer feel the need to chase, to question, or to force closeness. Instead, you hold yourself with dignity, anchored in the understanding that distance is not a verdict, but a signal. You see the ebb and flow as a natural rhythm, a necessary tension that ensures both hearts remain whole while connected. By understanding this, you transform fear into patience, insecurity into insight, and confusion into clarity. Every step back becomes a chance to reinforce your own emotional strength, to refine your awareness, and to approach intimacy with both courage and wisdom. This awareness empowers you to shift the energy in every interaction. You are no longer tossed by every change in closeness. Instead, you move with intention, embracing the natural pulse of connection without losing your footing. You cultivate a calm authority within yourself that commands respect, not through control or manipulation, but through presence, understanding, and emotional intelligence. Each moment of withdrawal becomes an invitation to deepen your own self-mastery, to remain grounded even when external circumstances fluctuate, and to respond to love with clarity rather than desperation. By embracing the push-pull pattern as a fundamental truth of human behavior, you reclaim power over your own emotions. Distance ceases to feel threatening, anxiety no longer dominates your thoughts, and love becomes a steady, conscious practice rather than a fragile state constantly at risk of collapse. You step into a higher level of awareness, where you understand not just the behavior of others, but the forces within yourself that determine how you experience connection. Every retreat is no longer a source of fear. It is an opportunity to strengthen, to observe, and to approach love with unwavering confidence, insight, and the courage to embrace intimacy fully, without losing yourself in the process. Intense emotions can be both beautiful and overwhelming, and this intensity often triggers retreat even in the strongest bonds. When someone feels deeply, the brain can become flooded with sensation, vulnerability, and responsibility all at once. It is a natural response to step back, to create a buffer that allows the mind to process what the heart is experiencing. This is not a reflection of love lost or diminished. It is a mechanism of protection, a way for someone to preserve their emotional balance while navigating feelings that can feel too large, too fast, or too exposing. Understanding this transforms what once felt like rejection into insight. You begin to see that withdrawal is not absence. It is a pause, a recalibration, and often a signal that deep feelings are at work, even when they are difficult to articulate. The brain's response to emotional overwhelm is wired into our survival instincts. It triggers a temporary need for distance to avoid feeling consumed or trapped by intensity. Recognizing this allows you to approach moments of retreat not with panic or insecurity, but with awareness and patience. You no longer interpret every pause as a personal failure, but as an opportunity to hold space to maintain your own balance, and to respond with emotional intelligence rather than fear. Each moment of distance becomes a tool for cultivating resilience, for strengthening your own sense of self, and for practicing the calm steadiness that deep love requires. You learn to remain present in the face of unpredictability, anchored in your own worth, while allowing someone else the space to process their emotions without judgment or pressure. Imagine the freedom of no longer taking emotional retreat personally. Imagine the calm that comes from understanding that intense feelings are not a threat to the connection, but evidence of depth and complexity. You can hold your own peace even when someone steps back, recognizing that love does not need constant reassurance to survive. By internalizing this truth, you stop spiraling into doubt, and you begin to respond with clarity, strength, and conscious choice. You transform every wave of intensity into an opportunity to reinforce your own emotional foundation, to expand your capacity for patience, and to deepen your understanding of human behavior. This insight allows you to engage with love more powerfully. You see that emotional intensity is not a burden, but a signal of connection that, when approached wisely, can strengthen bonds rather than break them. You no longer react from fear or anxiety, but from awareness, compassion, and intentionality. Each moment of withdrawal becomes a practice in emotional mastery, a chance to refine your patience, and a way to cultivate steadiness that inspires trust and respect in the relationship. You learn that the strength of love is measured not by constant proximity, but by the ability to hold space for both closeness and distance with equal grace. By understanding how emotional overwhelm influences behavior, you reclaim authority over your own feelings. Distance stops feeling threatening, intensity stops feeling dangerous, and connection becomes a conscious, empowered choice rather than a source of anxiety. You step into a higher level of emotional awareness, Where love is resilient, intimacy is balanced, and your capacity to engage fully is matched by your ability to remain grounded. Each retreat is no longer a cause for fear. It is a signal that invites patience, understanding, and the courage to love with clarity, presence, and unwavering strength. Past experiences leave invisible marks that shape how people engage in love, often in ways they cannot fully explain. Trauma, disappointment, or unresolved pain creates patterns in the mind and heart that influence behavior long after the original wounds have healed. When someone pulls away, it is frequently a reflection of these unseen scars rather than a reflection of you. Their retreat may be rooted in fear of repeating old pain, in the anticipation of hurt that their subconscious insists is inevitable. Recognizing this allows you to separate their history from your worth, to understand that distance is not a judgment against your value, but a response to shadows they carry within themselves. These invisible patterns are powerful, yet subtle. They operate beneath awareness, triggering withdrawal, hesitation, or avoidance without conscious thought. Understanding this transforms confusion into clarity. You begin to see that their retreat is not random, not cruel, and not personal. It is the echo of experiences that shape them, the defense mechanisms they develop to survive and protect themselves. By seeing the role of past trauma, you cultivate empathy and patience, freeing yourself from unnecessary guilt or self-doubt. You no longer feel responsible for their fears or compelled to fix what you cannot see. Instead, you hold space with awareness, allowing connection to exist without forcing it into a shape it cannot yet inhabit. Imagine the relief that comes from understanding this dynamic. No longer do you question your worth, obsess over actions, or measure every word for signs of rejection. You recognize that their distance is a protective response, not a reflection of your love, your value, or your commitment. This understanding allows you to maintain your own emotional integrity, to remain grounded and confident even when closeness recedes. You develop resilience, patience, and the ability to approach connection with insight rather than fear. Distance stops feeling threatening, and every moment becomes an opportunity to strengthen your own inner foundation and emotional intelligence. This perspective allows you to engage with love more consciously and courageously. You see that patterns rooted in past trauma can coexist with present affection, and that withdrawal does not erase connection. You respond from clarity, compassion, and self-assurance rather than anxiety or reactivity. Each retreat becomes a chance to practice patience, refine your awareness, and cultivate steadiness that both honors the other person and preserves your own peace. By recognizing the influence of past pain, you are no longer pulled into cycles of confusion or blame. Instead, you navigate relationships with intentionality, knowing that true intimacy grows through understanding, not through forcing proximity or control. By embracing this insight, you reclaim power over your own emotional experience. Distance no longer feels like rejection, fear no longer dictates your responses, and love becomes a deliberate, conscious choice rather than a source of anxiety. You step into a space where empathy, patience, and clarity guide your interactions, where connection thrives even in the presence of shadows from the past, and where your ability to engage fully is matched by the strength to remain grounded. Each moment of withdrawal is no longer a threat. It is an invitation to practice emotional mastery, deepen understanding, and approach love with courage, clarity, and unwavering self-respect. So much of the tension in relationships comes from what is left unsaid. Expectations, assumptions, and unexpressed needs create invisible barriers that push people apart, even when love is strong. When someone pulls away, it is often because a conversation has not happened, a feeling has not been acknowledged, or a fear has not been voiced. The mind fills the gaps with uncertainty, interpreting silence as rejection, distance as failure, and withdrawal as abandonment. Understanding this allows you to see communication not as a tool for control, but as a bridge, an essential pathway to clarity, connection, and trust. The clarity that comes from honest expression transforms confusion into insight and tension into opportunity. Every relationship carries layers of unspoken dynamics. Each assumption you make about what someone is thinking or feeling adds weight to your emotional load. By bringing awareness to what is unsaid, you release yourself from unnecessary speculation and fear. You begin to see that his distance is not a personal attack, but a response to misaligned expectations, unspoken needs, or internal struggles that remain hidden beneath the surface. When communication is approached with mindfulness and authenticity, it becomes a powerful tool to reduce tension, strengthen connection, and foster mutual understanding. You no longer react to perceived rejection. You respond to reality with clarity and presence. Imagine the confidence that comes from embracing this approach. No longer are you at the mercy of uncertainty, guessing what he feels or why he retreats. Instead, you cultivate the courage to express your own needs and emotions while holding space for his. You create a dialogue that honors both hearts, where distance is addressed without blame, where closeness is celebrated without fear, and where connection becomes a conscious, shared experience rather than a source of anxiety. Every conversation, every clarification, every moment of authentic expression strengthens your emotional foundation and reinforces the stability of your bond. This perspective transforms distance from a threat into an opportunity. It allows you to approach moments of withdrawal with calm and insight, recognizing them as signals rather than judgments. You see that the quality of your relationship is not determined by constant proximity, but by the depth of understanding, the courage to express, and the willingness to listen. By prioritizing clarity and authentic communication, you cultivate a relationship that is resilient, balanced, and capable of weathering the natural rhythms of human emotion. You shift from reacting to responding, from anxiety to awareness, from uncertainty to confidence. By mastering the art of honest communication, you reclaim authority over your emotional experience. Distance no longer destabilizes you, assumptions no longer dominate your thoughts, and love becomes a deliberate practice rather than a source of confusion. You step into a space where connection thrives even amid silence, where understanding bridges gaps that words alone cannot always reach, and where your capacity to love fully is matched by your ability to maintain your own clarity, peace, and self-respect. Each moment of retreat becomes not a cause for fear, but a call to insight, patience, and conscious engagement, empowering you to navigate love with wisdom, courage, and unwavering confidence. True growth begins with self-reflection, the courage to examine your own patterns, beliefs, and reactions. Too often, we focus all our energy on understanding the other person, analyzing their behavior, and questioning their motives, while overlooking the truths within ourselves. Every relationship is a mirror, reflecting back not just who the other person is, but who we are, our fears, our expectations, and our capacity to love without attachment. When he pulls away, it is not only an invitation to understand him, but also an opportunity to deepen your awareness of yourself, to identify where your own insecurities, assumptions, or fears might be influencing your emotional experience. This is the gateway to transformation. Self-reflection empowers you to step out of reaction and into insight. You begin to notice patterns, moments when you feel anxious, ways you seek reassurance, and triggers that amplify uncertainty. By observing these responses without judgment, you reclaim control over your emotional state. You stop giving your power away to fear or unpredictability and instead cultivate a grounded awareness that strengthens your sense of self. Recognizing your own patterns does not mean taking responsibility for his actions. It means mastering your own mind, refining your own responses, and developing the resilience needed to engage with love from a place of clarity rather than desperation. Imagine the freedom that comes from understanding yourself in this way. No longer are you swept into cycles of doubt or panic. No longer do you overanalyze every interaction, every pause, every distance. Instead, you cultivate the capacity to observe, to respond thoughtfully, and to maintain your own peace regardless of external circumstances. This is not passivity, it is a profound form of strength. It allows you to act with intention, to create space for healthy connection, and to remain unwavering in your value and self-respect, even when someone else struggles with their own fears or withdrawal. Self-reflection also opens the door to profound emotional intelligence. You learn to discern the difference between what belongs to you and what belongs to him. You recognize which emotions are projections of your own insecurities and which are responses to his behavior. This clarity allows you to respond with compassion, patience, and wisdom, rather than react with anxiety or control. You no longer seek to fill gaps with overcompensation or attempt to manage his feelings. Instead, You focus on cultivating your own inner stability, creating a foundation from which love can flow naturally, resiliently, and authentically. By embracing self-reflection, you transform distance from a source of confusion into a tool for personal growth. Each step back, each pause, each moment of uncertainty becomes an opportunity to strengthen your emotional awareness, refine your responses, and deepen your capacity for connection without losing yourself. You step into a higher level of mastery over your heart and mind, where love is not a fragile dependency but a conscious practice grounded in clarity, courage, and unwavering self-respect. You begin to see that your own growth is inseparable from the quality of your relationships, and that every challenge, every retreat, every tension is a chance to evolve, thrive, and embrace intimacy with insight and strength. Embracing uncertainty is one of the most courageous acts in love. The unknown is often terrifying because it feels like a void, a space where control slips away and fear takes root. Yet, it is precisely in that space of uncertainty where growth, depth, and authentic connection emerge. When he pulls away, the urge to seek answers, to demand explanations, or to chase certainty can feel overwhelming. But the truth is, certainty is an illusion in matters of the heart. The path to emotional mastery lies not in controlling outcomes, but in cultivating the ability to remain steady, confident, and centered, even when the future is unclear. Learning to tolerate uncertainty transforms fear into freedom. You no longer feel compelled to fill gaps with anxiety or overanalyze every interaction. Instead, you allow yourself to be present with what is, observing reality without judgment and responding with clarity rather than panic. This mindset shifts the power back to you, giving you control over your own emotional state instead of surrendering it to someone else's actions or decisions. You begin to see that love thrives not in predictability, but in the courage to engage fully, even when outcomes are uncertain. Each moment of distance becomes an opportunity to strengthen patience, deepen resilience, and embrace the rhythm of human connection with wisdom and grace. Imagine the liberation of standing firm in the unknown. You no longer measure your worth by how close he stays or how consistently he engages. You no longer bend or shrink to fit the shape of his comfort. Instead, you cultivate a sense of internal stability that allows you to navigate the ebb and flow of intimacy with clarity and self-respect. By embracing uncertainty, you build emotional muscle, developing the capacity to face fear without letting it dictate your actions. Distance no longer triggers desperation. It becomes a canvas upon which you exercise strength, patience, and conscious choice. This perspective also deepens empathy. Recognizing that he may be grappling with his own fears, insecurities, or past experiences allows you to approach the situation with compassion rather than judgment. You no longer interpret his withdrawal as a rejection of you, but as a reflection of the human tendency to pull back when faced with vulnerability. You hold space for both yourself and him, maintaining your own peace while allowing him the room to process his emotions. In doing so, you create an environment where connection can flourish organically, free from pressure, fear, or neediness. By learning to sit with uncertainty, you step into a higher level of emotional freedom. You reclaim your power, your calm, and your clarity. Distance no longer feels threatening. Unpredictability no longer triggers panic. Instead, every pause, every retreat, and every moment of ambiguity becomes an opportunity to practice resilience, patience, and conscious engagement. You embrace the truth that love is not fragile, intimacy is not conditional, and your ability to love fully is inseparable from your capacity to remain steady, self-aware, and courageous in the face of the unknown. In this space, you discover the strength to navigate connection with unwavering confidence, insight, and grace. Distance, when understood through the lens of growth, becomes a powerful tool rather than a source of despair. Every moment he steps back is an invitation to focus on yourself, to nurture your own strength, passions, and purpose. Human connection is not a single thread that binds two people. It is a tapestry woven from individual resilience, self-awareness, and the courage to thrive independently while remaining open to intimacy. By shifting your focus from his behavior to your own growth, you reclaim authority over your emotional world. You stop feeling like a passenger in a relationship dictated by his proximity and instead step into the driver's seat of your own heart. This shift transforms fear into empowerment. When distance is seen as an opportunity rather than a threat, you begin to prioritize your own development without guilt or hesitation. Hobbies, personal goals, emotional mastery all become tools to solidify your inner foundation. The more you invest in yourself, the less the ebb and flow of his presence destabilizes you. You are no longer defined by his proximity, nor by the anxiety it might create. Instead, you cultivate an inner strength that radiates confidence, attracting connection naturally rather than through neediness or control. Every pause in closeness becomes a mirror reflecting your own capacity for resilience, patience, and self-reliance. Imagine the clarity and freedom that comes from this approach. You no longer anxiously monitor every interaction or interpret distance as a reflection of your worth. You maintain your own rhythm, your own sense of purpose, and your own emotional equilibrium. This self-driven focus allows love to exist without dependency, creating a bond that is sustainable, authentic, and deeply fulfilling. By embracing growth in the spaces where connection temporarily retreats, you transform uncertainty into opportunity and distance into a catalyst for personal empowerment. This perspective also redefines how you engage with him. You interact from a place of fullness rather than deficiency, from confidence rather than fear, and from clarity rather than confusion. The moments of withdrawal lose their sting because they no longer dictate your emotional state. You become a stabilizing force, capable of responding to connection with intentionality and grace. Love no longer feels precarious because you understand that your value is intrinsic, that your strength is self-sourced, and that the bond you share can thrive even in moments of temporary separation. By turning distance into growth, you cultivate a deeper, more resilient form of intimacy. You embrace the truth that love is not fragile, that connection does not require constant presence, and that your power lies in your ability to thrive independently while remaining open to closeness. Each step back becomes a space to reinforce your emotional foundation, deepen your awareness, and refine your ability to engage consciously and courageously. In this space, you transform every moment of withdrawal into a lesson in patience, a practice in resilience, and a profound opportunity to embrace love with clarity, strength, and unwavering self-respect. Boundaries are the foundation of sustainable love. Without them, connection becomes unstable, dependent, and vulnerable to fear and insecurity. When he pulls away, it often signals the need for space, not as punishment, not as rejection, but as a natural boundary. His mind and heart are imposing to preserve balance. Recognizing and respecting these boundaries is not a concession, it is an act of courage and clarity. It shows that you understand the rhythm of intimacy, that you honor both your needs and his, and that you can hold space for connection without losing yourself. Boundaries are not limitations, they are the architecture of healthy love. Embracing boundaries transforms your perspective entirely. Instead of reacting with anxiety or attempting to control proximity, you operate from awareness and intentionality. You recognize that his withdrawal is a signal, a natural mechanism that asks for patience, reflection, and emotional discipline. By respecting these spaces, you cultivate a sense of steadiness that cannot be shaken by external shifts. You no longer experience distance as threat, you experience it as part of the natural pulse of connection, a rhythm that, when honored, strengthens trust, intimacy, and mutual respect. Boundaries create clarity, providing a framework within which love can exist freely, fully, and safely. Imagine the strength that comes from mastering this dynamic. You no longer feel compelled to fill gaps with anxiety or overcompensation. You no longer let his distance dictate your emotional stability. Instead, you operate from a center of clarity, understanding, and self-respect. By honoring boundaries, yours and his, you cultivate a bond that is resilient, balanced, and authentic. You step into a space where connection thrives not because of constant closeness, but because it is nurtured with patience, intentionality, and the courage to engage without neediness or fear. Boundaries also sharpen your emotional intelligence. They teach you to discern between your needs and his, between control and compassion, between fear-driven reactions and conscious responses. You become capable of maintaining your peace while still being fully present in the relationship. The pull of anxiety loses its grip, and the tension of withdrawal becomes manageable because you understand the rules of engagement, the rhythm of give and take, and the value of self-sovereignty in love. Each moment of distance becomes a practical lesson in patience, resilience, and conscious choice. By embracing boundaries, you reclaim control over your emotional experience. Distance no longer threatens your sense of self. Withdrawal no longer triggers desperation, and love becomes an intentional practice rather than a fragile state. You understand that connection flourishes within clarity, that intimacy is sustained by respect for space, and that your ability to love fully is inseparable from your capacity to uphold your own emotional integrity. Each pause becomes an opportunity to strengthen your foundation, cultivate awareness, and engage with love, with confidence, courage, and unwavering self-respect, creating a bond that is both unshakable and deeply fulfilling. Trust is the invisible thread that holds love together, yet it is also the most fragile when fear and uncertainty arise. When he pulls away, your instinct may be to doubt, to question, to search for reasons that may not exist. But trust is not built on constant reassurance or proximity. It is forged in the ability to believe in the connection, even when visibility is limited. Understanding this allows you to step into a space of confidence rather than doubt, where distance does not equate to disconnection, and absence does not diminish the bond that exists. Trust is a choice, and choosing it empowers you to navigate love with courage and clarity. When you cultivate trust, you reclaim emotional freedom. You stop interpreting every withdrawal as rejection, and you stop letting fear dictate your actions. Instead, you operate from a foundation of belief in yourself, in the strength of the relationship, and in the natural rhythm of connection. Distance becomes manageable, not threatening, because you understand that love is resilient and that the integrity of a bond is not measured by constant presence, but by the consistency of commitment, respect, and care over time. Trust allows you to hold space for both your needs and his without succumbing to panic or overcompensation. Imagine the liberation that comes from embodying this trust. You no longer feel compelled to chase explanations, overanalyze interactions, or measure every text and gesture for hidden meaning. You remain grounded, centered, and confident, knowing that the bond you share is not fragile, that your worth is intrinsic, and that love is a force capable of withstanding moments of distance. This trust transforms anxiety into calm, uncertainty into clarity, and tension into opportunity. Each retreat, each pause, each moment of withdrawal becomes a mirror reflecting your capacity to remain steady, resilient, and unwavering in the face of unpredictability. Trust also deepens connection. When you approach the relationship from a place of belief rather than suspicion, you invite openness, authenticity, and mutual respect. Distance is no longer a source of tension, but a space where both partners can reflect, recharge, and engage with intentionality. Your emotional steadiness becomes a stabilizing force, creating a container where intimacy can thrive even amid temporary withdrawal. You learn to see beyond immediate actions and perceive the larger patterns that sustain love, allowing you to engage with wisdom rather than reaction. By cultivating trust, you reclaim power over your own heart. Distance stops feeling threatening, withdrawal no longer triggers insecurity, and love becomes a conscious, deliberate practice rather than a fragile state at risk of collapse. You understand that connection is maintained through belief, respect, and emotional integrity. Each moment of absence becomes an opportunity to strengthen your own foundation, refine your awareness, and embrace love with courage, clarity, and unwavering self-respect. In this space, you discover that trust is not passive. It is active, intentional, and transformative, enabling you to navigate intimacy with confidence, resilience, and profound emotional mastery. Patience is the quiet strength that transforms uncertainty into growth. When someone pulls away, the immediate instinct is often to react, to fill the void with questions, attempts to control, or efforts to force closeness. Yet true mastery of love is found not in urgency, but in restraint. Patience allows you to sit with the discomfort of distance without letting it erode your confidence, your self-worth, or your peace. It transforms waiting from a source of anxiety into a practice of resilience, teaching you that connection thrives when hearts are allowed to breathe, reflect, and recalibrate on their own terms. Every moment of withdrawal is an opportunity to cultivate this patience. Instead of interpreting absence as abandonment, you recognize it as a natural part of the rhythm of intimacy. You begin to see that timing matters in love, that forcing closeness too early can create tension, while allowing space can deepen understanding, trust, and connection. Patience is not passivity, it is an active engagement with your own growth, a deliberate choice to remain grounded and centered even when external circumstances feel uncertain. By embracing this practice, you strengthen your ability to navigate love without losing yourself, transforming tension into clarity and fear into calm. Imagine the power that comes from embodying patience. You no longer feel the compulsion to chase explanations or to fill every silence with reassurance. You no longer let the ebb and flow of proximity determine your emotional stability. Instead, you cultivate a centeredness that radiates confidence, self-respect, and calm authority. Distance ceases to trigger panic, and moments of withdrawal become mirrors reflecting your own capacity for endurance, emotional intelligence, and conscious engagement. Patience allows you to respond with insight rather than reaction, creating a relationship that is resilient, authentic, and deeply fulfilling. Patience also deepens empathy and understanding. By allowing space without judgment, you acknowledge the complexity of human emotion, the weight of fear, and the necessity of personal reflection. You see, that withdrawal is rarely about you. It is about internal processing, subconscious fears, or a need to maintain balance. Holding this perspective transforms every pause into an opportunity to observe without anxiety, to respect boundaries without resentment, and to engage with presence and clarity. The power of patience lies in its ability to maintain connection without sacrificing emotional integrity, allowing intimacy to evolve naturally rather than under pressure. By mastering patience, you reclaim authority over your emotional experience. Distance no longer destabilizes you, uncertainty no longer triggers fear, and love becomes a deliberate, conscious practice rather than a fragile state dependent on constant proximity. You learn to embrace the rhythm of human connection, where moments of withdrawal are not threats but signals, opportunities to strengthen your foundation, deepen self-awareness, and approach intimacy with courage, clarity, and unwavering self-respect. In this practice, you discover that patience is not passive waiting. It is an active, transformative force that empowers you to navigate love with mastery, confidence, and profound emotional strength.